necessity dictates that you take to the roads. Just be aware that at the moment, the weather is a little confusing. It's hard to say exactly what the problem is. We have word from our Eric Judd, that 153 is a mess. And yet I step outside in our radio station parking lot, run my finger down the windshield of a green car that I'm driving, and the drops are not frozen at all. They're just wet. It's just rain. And when I tried to do a sort of a sudden brake test on a hill on 153 coming down toward the Walmart shopping center, there was no risk, it seemed, of any kind of skid. So I just was slightly less cautious than I might have been if I had started weaving with my car. Again, not perhaps a good idea to do, but I'm in the news business, and I was trying to find out how bad it was at 8:30. So now it's 9 o'clock, and we are getting conflicting reports about the conditions of the road. However, we are, being Tennesseans and Southerners, we are overemphasizing the whole of it. Nothing really has happened. If we were living in Buffalo, we could have 2 feet of snow on the ground, and it barely win the notice of the local news producers, right? But here we are micro monitoring the rainfall and the prospect of snow this morning. And do keep it here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. My name is David Tulis, and I hope to get in a few words edgewise as we keep you updated on developments around the city, especially since you want to exercise a property right, a very important property right, and that is the liberty of movement and locomotion, self-propulsion, hauling yourself about, even, quote, driving a motor vehicle, as the deputy might call it, is an exercise of liberty. And we all take part in that. We are, if we're not in the digital economy purely, we are required to get about, to meet people for business, to discuss arrangements, to make purchases, to place orders, to have that personal contact, right, which is crucial in local economy. And really, the lifeblood of the city is personal connections, and a personalistic, as I perhaps could call it, a personalistic view of economics. We have the idea of the marketplace, in which we talk about abstractions, right? We talk about the marketplace and the millions of people who make up that market, who in their arrangement set prices, create demand for one product and less demand for another, driving people out of business if they're providing the wrong thing. And we look at things in the aggregate because we understand that liberty, the invisible hand, if you will, controls those things and brings the greatest prosperity for the greatest number. And yet we have here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County a desire for there to be a highly personal form of economy, and for people to identify with Chattanooga and with Hamilton County. And you, my listener, if you happen to be just rumbling through town with a truck, or you are the officer waiting for something to happen, you'll be busy in just a minute. So you're excused. If you have to go, you're excused. You can take your ideas, or our ideas here at Hot News Talk Radio, 1240 AM, to your place, right? To your town, to the place where you are from. I end that phrase there with a preposition, and it's quite all right. And you can take our non-trademarked, non-copyrighted arguments, and you can make them your own, all right? And identify everything we say about local economy and the free markets in your town, right? Especially if you are from far away, just gracing our city for the half hour as you pass through it. Pass along our powerful AM signal at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the talk station discovered on July 16 when everybody else was running music and doing the routines, and we had wall-to-wall coverage of the slaughter of the faithful Muslim as against the federal military people in 2 locations here in Chattanooga. Speaking of which, the city council approved a move yesterday, according to the Chattanooga Times Free Press, that will allow police officers and city staffers who were somehow damaged, psychologically damaged by the trauma of that day, to receive $1,000 payments. these people there were 28 of them applied to receive this free money from the National Compassion Fund, which the story tells us is part of the nonprofit National Center for Victims of Crime, that took in nearly $500,000 in donations in favor of the victims of this attack. So here you have a little bit of money leaking out of this treasure trove, and the applicants are officers. One officer, quoted by the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, Sean Bryan, was one of those who exchanged gunfire with Mohammed Abdulaziz, and he says, "I can't speak for anybody who filled out the paperwork. I can't speak to their intent. I can just say, from my perspective, it undermines our ethics and our sworn position in this community to have kind of weeping plea for money for those who had what we conveniently call psychological trauma or some kind of mental rubbing of burrs, the burrs of experience on one's mental health. Right, those are the kind of the causes that prompted 28 police officers and others to apply for this money. We were found on that day here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, brought to you by P5 Preparedness, which is the shop on East Brainerd Road, which has people always thinking about days like today. Now, we may have a very mild day. There may in fact nothing very exciting happen on the course of the day. We may not have 2 inches of snow. We may, who knows exactly, but the occasion of needing to be ready is something that P5 Preparedness helps you to put in mind. I take my preparedness thinking seriously. I put 2 buckets of sand in the back of a little SUV that my wife and daughter often drive, a green Toyota RAV, and I put 3 shovels in case I had to lend a shovel to somebody else. And I have my mountain boots in the back with socks and a heavy coat. But I didn't do what Duke and Seth would suggest would be to have a special kit that I carry along that would have water and crackers and a flashlight and radio and things like that in case the driver is swept off down into a gully hidden by trees and is lost for days. Right, that's the story you often hear of people surviving eating crackers until they're finally found by a rescue party. That's that kind of thinking of avoiding that, being prepared for that kind of circumstance is what you get at P5 Preparedness. That's P5, the prepper store here in Chattanooga, and one of our sponsors. Make sure you listen to Duke Nukem's show coming out of that shop. All kinds of great topics on preparedness. Here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're the station in which you report and the world decides. If you want to call me today, anytime during my show, we're on for the next couple hours, call at 800-8949. That's 800-8949. You, my listener, feel free to call in. Just say, give me your first name and give a quick report of your part of the city. We'd like to develop that little network, and that is our studio number. That's the number of my line here in front of our webcam, our YouTube webcam. And again, it's 800-8949. Write that down if you need to call me about anything while I'm on the air. My show is a talk show, and here's a call right here. This is David Tulis, and you're on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Hey, David, this is Eric. I want to give you a quick update. 153 North has slick spots. There are some people that are driving way too fast, and a few have paid for their iniquities there. And East Brainerd, if you're off the main roads, there's several slick spots in the East Brainerd area, mainly around Standerford Gap, Jenkins area.
Okay, and the part of 153 to which you're making reference, Eric, is that south of the dam, heading north?
That'd be south of the dam, heading north between the Jersey Pike and 58 exits.
Okay. Well, listen, call to update us, Eric, if anything else comes to your notice.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. This is David Tulis, and we're at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, where we argue that you should love your neighbor, and buy local, shop local. And we try to cover here on our show, local economy, the free market. And Russell, our news director, thinks I'm the most connected man in Chattanooga. But I haven't heard from you, my listener, and so you should always think about contacting me. I'm a writer, and my platform is the number 7 media platform in Chattanooga, and that's Nooganomics.com, Nooganomics.com. And there we explore local economy and the free market. And I always have something of special interest for you, the man who matters. And believe me, it's not a popular website. It's not popular. It's not hot. And the reason is I have come to understand is that there are very few people who matter. And in fact, I'd say if major things happen in a culture or in a city, in the life of a city state, perhaps, it's usually at the behest, under the labor of, right, caused by a tiny minority. There's a thing called the Pareto curve that holds that if 4% of people do something, let's say they exit a particular system or they exit a particular framework, a control framework, what happens is they lead and influence another large body of 64%, according to Charles Hugh Smith in one of his books. He talks about the Pareto curve and how things slowly move. Now, one thing that I think is helpful in the P5 prepper context, the P5 preparedness context, is not believing the establishment line. Now, in many ways, we have the Department of Homeland Security, the federal people, and even the Department of Safety. They will have web pages that discuss how you should be prepared. Have 5 days worth of food stocked away. Have bottled water. Have extra batteries for your flashlight, and things of this kind. These are for natural disasters, right? These are natural disasters, but there are man-made disasters as well. Let's say the grid is hacked and suddenly the steam plants aren't producing. This is David Tulis, and we have here at the mic, we've got Russell Stroud, our news director.
Good evening, or morning now. I'm used to the evening. There's been an accident on I-75 South at Ringgold Road. It looks like a car is on the side of the road right now on the shoulder. The big one, though, is I-75 North and South at Ottawa. Up in Ottawa, I couldn't quite read what the mile marker was, but there's I-75 North and South in Ottawa. Just as you're passing through Chattanooga on 75 South, you'll see that there are emergency vehicles on both sides of the road, north and south on I-75. So suffice it to say, I-75 should be avoided if you can, because right at the Georgia border, it's blocked off, and right past Chattanooga, just as you're going past the McKays there on 75, it's blocked off.
What does blocked off mean exactly? Down to 1 or 2 lanes?
No, completely blocked. There are emergency vehicles on north and south blocking off the entirety of the road. There's no transmission on 75 north or south in that region.
And that's in East Ridge?
In East Ridge and in Ottawa. So 2 different regions. On East Ridge, it's blocked to the point where I think there's 1 lane open now. But in Ottawa is where the worst of it is right now.
North and south.
North and south.
All right. Well, that's thanks, Russell. Russell is our news director, keeping tab with our media allies. We are the CBS radio news station here in Chattanooga, and the Fox. We have CBS at the top of every hour, and Fox News at the bottom. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it is going on Hot News Talk Radio. And our number here, if you, my listener, are out and about and want to call us, please give me a ring at 800-8949. That's 800-8949. 800-8949. That is a local number. I was mentioning just trying to get to the news, which I think is being pushed aside. The main news I think that we want to mention today, aside from the application for $1,000 checks by a couple dozen city workers, is the rally that was held yesterday in Nashville. Andy Scher of the Chattanooga Times Free Press reports that 100 people attended that from around the state, and I had another report that had a figure several times larger than that, suggesting that there were a larger crowd. But no matter what the size was, the effort, the demonstration was by Christian people who have a local economy perspective on government, and they are highlighting an essential part of the American form of government, which is divided government. And the idea of divided government means that one part of the government contests its interests and the interest of its defends the interest of its constituents as against another part of government. Now, those don't have to be all necessarily within the same level within, say, the state branch, where you have the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative branch. It could be on the city level. It could be among or between levels, let's say between county and state. And we have a question here in Tennessee of does the General Assembly, does the Governor Bill Haslam, a Presbyterian elder, does he have authority under law, right? Under the law that he swore before God to uphold, does he have the authority to defend marriage? Does he have constitutional warrant in the federal Constitution and in the state Constitution to say marriage can only be between one man and one woman? Our people have decided it. And no matter what you say out of Washington in your opinions, we have decided what to do, and you have no subject matter jurisdiction. You, the federal court, the non great ones, who have decided that marriage can now be between two men or two women, or as the litigation will press the high court to yield, between other combinations of people. You can have a multitude variety of what the state will recognize as marriage. Of course, marriage before God and in common law can only be, or can be only, I should say, can be only. No, can only be. There is a difference, but I'm not sure I can weigh it right now. But can only be between one man and one woman. There is no other thing that is marriage. Common law marriage is, of course, a right, and you, my listener, have not availed yourself of common law marriage, but marriage under statute. That marriage under statute is what is being fought over, and the demonstration in favor of what's called the Beavers Pody Bill in the General Assembly reminds the state that it has full authority to defend the marriage amendment in our Constitution, which came out in 2006. The Tennessee Interposition Day was yesterday, and it was in defense of the Tennessee Natural Marriage Defense Act, which essentially restates in bill form what the Constitution already makes unmistakable, that no one in state government has authority to define marriage as anything other than between one man and one woman. Russell, our news director here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, what's the latest on the traffic?
Looking now at the I-75 traffic cameras from TDOT, I'm looking right now at the TDOT SmartWay camera, 75 at Ringgold Road going south. We're seeing now, it looks like a blockage on the right-hand side of the shoulder, and I can't tell if traffic is getting past that or not. It doesn't appear to be. There's a long line of trucks. I think it might be moving very slowly as emergency vehicles are attempting to extricate someone from a vehicle right now. The larger accident, though, if we can move over to Ottawa, if we can just drag our cameras over there, we can see that there's been quite an accident in Ottawa. If we just turn on our traffic cams there, we can see that on Ottawa, 75 north and south looks to be rather blocked off. On 75 southbound, we're seeing traffic looks like it's blocked by an emergency vehicle. There are still vehicles coming on an entrance ramp going south on I-75, but then going northbound, we're seeing traffic is being diverged onto an exit there at Ottawa. That's mile marker 10. So we're seeing pretty large blockage there on 75 north. We'll keep you updated, of course, on the traffic as it evolves here on Hot News Talk Radio. Thank you, David.
We are the station in which we report all that's going on. You report, and the world decides if it's a matter of national or local import. And if it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, we would like to assure you it is going on Hot News Talk Radio. My name is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving us a couple of minutes of your time. The Beavers Pody Bill is one that has, according to a legislative note, that favors the governor's pro-gay marriage perspective. A cost past $8 billion, and that is in the context of Obamacare. If you go to Nooganomics.com, you can read my report about this event. I did not attend it in person, but based my account of it on news reports from Eric Shelzik, the Associated Press, Andy Scher from the Chattanooga Times Free Press, and a couple of very hostile reports, one the Nashville scene, and another pro-gay, anti-marriage group that had a somewhat reasonable and fair, despite some harsh language, report about what happened yesterday. And the bill, the tab, if you will, for this measure is put at $8 billion because Tennessee would lose federal subsidies if it did marriage. So the governor has to say, is marriage in our state worth $8 billion? Or is $8 billion from the good people worth more than marriage? Do you see the role of pragmatism? Pragmatism makes you take that kind of weighing very seriously. And that's what he is doing. He is Governor Haslam is a pragmatist, as most Republicans are, but there are some exceptions. There are some exceptions of fine men in the General Assembly. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect a cloudy and cold start to your Wednesday, with areas of light snow moving in from the west. That'll gradually change over to a wintry mix and maybe a little light rain before ending, but some accumulations likely. Highs staying into the mid-30s tonight. Lows holding steady with more rain moving in later Thursday. Dodge City Ski Farm with the largest selection of cold weather clothing around, as well as snow sleds for the kids. Dodge City East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm Source 12's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business and becoming self-sufficient. Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. 875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Call me now, 875-5621.
While politicians debate climate change and taking our guns, they leave America vulnerable to disaster. You need to act now to keep your family safe and prepared. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have long-term storage food? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? If not, what are you waiting for? Call P5 Preparedness right now, 423-602-2175. Do you honestly think the government is going to help you? If you do, you are wrong, dead wrong. Don't get caught unprepared. Let the experts at P5 Preparedness get you ready for any emergency or disaster situation. Today, we offer a wide range of classes for the beginner on how to prepare, as well as the expert prepper. We stock a wide range of supplies, including long-term storage food, water filtration, outdoor gear, tactical gear, and plate carriers. P5 Preparedness, East Brainerd Road, between I-75 and Gun Barrel Road. You will see the Army Deuce and a Half truck, 423-602-2175, 1309 Panorama Drive, Chattanooga, P5Preparedness.com.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The morning after Donald Trump picks up the endorsement of Sarah Palin, the GOP candidate, speaking to Fox and Friends, he was asked if there would be a place for her in his cabinet if he should win.
Well, it would be something I would certainly think about. We never even discussed it. She was just happy to endorse. You know, she views it as a movement.
The pair campaigning in Tulsa, Oklahoma today.
Palin's support for Trump follows an endorsement from evangelical leader Jerry Falwell Jr. and Iowa Governor Terry Branstad, who says voters should choose anyone but Senator Ted Cruz. Meantime, another Republican candidate is now grieving. Ben Carson announcing Tuesday one of his campaign volunteers died in a car accident in Iowa. With the caucuses less than 2 weeks away, most Iowans say they're still undecided.
Fox's Jackie Ibanez. A massive search suspended for 12 Marines on board 2 choppers which crashed off Oahu. Fell in December. Fox News. More view side.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Hamilton County, Bradley County, and Catoosa County schools are closed today as icy conditions have caused roadways to be very dangerous. Governor Deal placed a state of emergency on the state of Georgia as well as a precautionary measure. Chat State and UTC have canceled classes today as well. The Hamilton County School Board met yesterday at 5:30. They met with his session, where they then stayed after his meeting for another hour and a half. 2 school board members said that the focus was on finding out about the case in which 3 Ooltewah High School basketball players are charged with the aggravated rape and assault of a 15-year-old teammate. Rhonda Thurman, who was at the school board, said, "We are not here to talk about Rick Smith. We are here to get information about the Ooltewah High incident, and we got some." And the Chattanooga police say that a man was shot last night after being asked if he needed a ride. Police say a vehicle approached and offered him a ride. He was then shot when he came closer. He was taken to the hospital. He is expected to survive. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect a cloudy and cold start to your Wednesday, with areas of light snow moving in from the west. That'll gradually change over to a wintry mix and maybe a little light rain before ending, but some accumulations likely. Highs staying into the mid-30s tonight. Lows holding steady with more rain moving in later Thursday. Stay toasty warm with Dodge City Ski Shop. They'll keep you and your family toasty warm with the largest selection of cold weather clothing around, as well as snow sleds for the kids. Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm Source 12's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
The time is 9:33 here at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm actually Russell, the news director. David Tulis will be here in a second. But we're going to go to Mike Wood from the traffic center here at Hot News Talk Radio. Mike, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Russell. Good morning. We got a bunch of problems this morning still with us. The biggest, it looks like, is 75 northbound at Ooltewah, right at the 11-mile mark. Completely blocked on the one side. On the southbound side, they've got one lane blocked over there for some emergency vehicles, and it looks like they're detouring traffic off 75 northbound right at Ooltewah and then back onto the interstate on up there about a quarter of a mile. But completely blocked, an injury accident on that one. We are also working accidents 153 northbound at Amnicola, between Amnicola and the dam. That one is going to be with injuries this morning. Southbound 153 at Amnicola, there's one on the other side of that one. So it's north and south on 153 right at Amnicola right now. So that you got some problems there. 153 again at Highway 58. We had a report of an accident there as well. So 153 a mess right now. Cummings Highway at Kelly's Ferry Road with injuries this morning. Old Lee Highway at Wolfpack Trail, accident there. 27 southbound at 153. We've got an accident, no injuries. 27 north and south has been covered up all morning. An accident at DuPont Parkway northbound on the C.B. Robinson Bridge right now. We've got injuries on that one as well. Lee Highway at Edgemond Road, an accident there. Now, all of these in the last few minutes. West 4th, downtown Chattanooga between Broad and Chestnut, an accident there. One on Gold Point Circle at Fairview Road. That one with injuries. East Brainerd at Hamlet Drive. The sheriff's office out on that one. Thrasher Pike at Pine Tree Lane. Sheriff's office on the way there right now. Again, these in the last 10, 12 minutes. 27 northbound at Manufacturers. Chattanooga on scene there. 27 south at Old Dayton Pike. An accident. Eli at Delashamet. More injuries on 75 north at Volkswagen Drive right now as well. Before we had left earlier this morning, we talked about a lot of icing around bridges and overpasses. That's certainly still the case this morning. We're seeing lots and lots of places with icing this morning, as you can tell by the amount of accidents. Again, all of those in the last 15 or 20 minutes. So an incredible amount of accidents, especially on the interstate system this morning. Let me add one that just came into us as we were talking. Dayton Pike at Coulterville Road with injuries. The sheriff's office dispatched there right now. So be very careful if you have to get out and about here for the next little bit. Mike Wood in the Traffic Center, Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240.
Thanks, Mike. The time right now is 9:37 a.m. We're going to go back to David Tulis with the David Tulis Show right here, Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com.
If you're just joining us, the biggest news is Interstate 75. If you're heading north toward Cleveland and Knoxville, you're going to be ordered off the interstate. And so if you're in that line of traffic and not sure what's going on, as far as we can tell at the moment, your route will be diverted into the Ooltewah exit. There are ways north to Cleveland, of course, if you take the old road through the countryside, that you can get around it that way. And but if not, just think about where you're going to go. You may want to check your phone if you have any kind of GPS system on your phone or mapping system on your phone. You can, as you're waiting, you can check that. Or if you're moving slightly, please don't try to do that yourself. Please pass the phone to your son there in the passenger seat and let him handle it. He can do better than you. Especially worrisome to be checking your phone when you have stop and go traffic like this. That's when your little accident happens, and you will certainly be embarrassed if you hit someone in the rear end at 6 miles an hour just because you're checking your phone for the alternative route. So figure out how to do that, but be very, very careful and very prudent, and not with a sense of desperation, which might prompt you otherwise to watch your screen and not the road space in front of your front bumper. We're brought to you by Choo Choo Barbecue here in Hickson. Choo Choo Barbecue specializes in catering the best kinds of sandwiches and smoked flavor meats, pork, chicken, or beef. That's Choo Choo Barbecue of Hickson, coming through for you right near the Valley Brook golf course. The number is 870-7894 for catering. Now, come in, you just show up and enjoy the best meals that you can have there. Very generous portions. I ate there last week and just was very satisfied. Sometimes you eat out and the portions are not quite enough. I'm a grown man, 6'1" or so, and I'm want to say that you get enough to make you feel full at Choo Choo Barbecue in Hickson. The best barbecue with a secret rub that has not been shared and has something very distinct about it. If you want to go into business on your own but don't have your own idea for a company or an operation or a service, buy into somebody else's plan, buy into a franchise, and contact Bruce Krebs. He can explain to you how you can get $150,000 in credit on your signature and run your new business. He's a franchise headhunter at Entrepreneur Source, and his name is Bruce Krebs. Make sure you get on his calendar for an interview about how he can help you and how you can obtain credit for the starting of your business. Bruce Krebs, Entrepreneur Source, and the number, write this down and call him, 875-5621. That's 875-5621. The big blockage again is on 75 North. You'll be routed off onto the Ooltewah exit, and until something further ahead, which we have not been able to discern by checking the state cameras, is blocking the way. My name is David Tulis, and we are AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, arguing for a local economy in the free markets. And I want you to think how it is you can really focus on what matters. I think the big news in politics, whether it's Cruz or Trump or Sarah Palin, these are a kind of important distraction. And here we have we have Donald Trump being endorsed by Sarah Palin in a very shrill and feathery, sort of light, bubbly, peppy slabs of monologue. But the slab is, you might say, meat. If there were a dog charging you, you could divert that dog from his goal, which is your calf, by throwing a lump of meat off over his head, and he will see that meat flying over his head, and he will turn and chase after that. Well, in a way, the whole political story is me. We dart after every 4 years, but it seems like it's every third year. The election cycle seems to be now 2 years, and so the effort to divert us from our true destiny has to last a little longer. Just as those people in Chattanooga just a few days ago at the Trade Center, the slab of meat is, well, there is a problem, but look, let's just make school last longer, right? Start school earlier and extend high school through community college, and that way we've solved our problems. Reform, which is an ersatz reform, a reform that doesn't change anything fundamental. How can we understand that local economy is to be found not in waiting on the electorate to choose Donald Trump or to choose Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush, who will probably come from behind and who could gain the election by sheer force of Republican establishment dollars? Can we find a way of thinking in an alternate way? And my suggestion is that we can. And we can do it through the idea of local economy. It's a wonderfully weak idea. It's wonderfully disorganized, and its strength is in the fact that there is no party, that there is no central authority, there is no there's no grandee saying, okay, here is what you have to do. I think the reason we can't see local economy as an alternative is because of what you could call control myths, right? A control myth is something that keeps you where you are. It kind of keeps you on the plantation. You can't leave the plantation because guess what? Once you go past that fence there, right? You got the cotton rows and you have the trees and then there's a fence and there's a gate. If you go past that gate, you don't know what's going to happen to you. You will meet people that you don't know how to deal with them. You'll have want. You'll have fear. You will have insecurity. Your means of supply, which has been the master up until now, will not be there. What are you going to do? How are you going to take care of your children? Do you love your children? Do you love your wife? Well, if you do, you're not going to even think about going past that gate. That's called a control myth. And Charles Hugh Smith, one of my favorite writers, says in a book that I've look at my my copy of this volume. I have marked this book up and down. I have read parts of it, reread parts of it, and the title of it is called "Resistance, Revolution, Liberation: A Model for Positive Change." It is a terrific analysis, largely accurate, and he talks about control myths, and he says that they prey on what he calls ontological insecurity. In other words, an insecurity which comes from our soul, comes from in of our soul, and shows itself in many, many fashions. Our need to establish a coherent internal view of the world and to develop an identity with that world. That's what our ontological insecurity, and it comes from our desire to be part of something and to belong there in our persons, right? To fit in where everybody else is, right? To not be apart from people, but to be with people. He says social control myths function to the degree that they offer a compelling worldview and offer us a positive place in it. And that's where we stand today. That's why local economy is struggling. That's why local economy here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County is so poor. Yes, I know. We have Renaissance Fund. We have the Women's Investment Fund. We have Lamppost Group. We have other important people who are involved in capital markets, who are involved in investment. We have several houses that have a local-centric perspective and involve local capital. But as rich as those people are, right, we're dealing with them with millions, right? With me, I'm the little $50,000 investor, right? I'm the little guy. But though compared to me and to you, those are the magnates of our city, but they are paltry and poor and few. If you think about what things could be, how things could be if we had a genuine free market. Once this structure has been internalized, he says, then we feel it serves our best interest and are loath to replace it or even question it. That's what I'm asking you to do. Question your internal myth. In terms of natural selection, of course, Smith is an evolutionist, so he's got some problems in his writing. This can be understood as conserving what works, because doing so is a low-risk strategy. A low-risk strategy. Since the worldview and our identity works, then why risk modifying or replacing it? That process is fraught with risk and uncertainty, so better to avoid it if possible. This explains why we cling to a conception of self-interest long after today has us in the grip of a myth that we think serves our self-interest, right? It serves our time, our savings, our allocation of our resources, our incomes, and yet it's really not. It really is not. And we are involved, insofar as we believe in the system, we're involved in a long-term program of decapitalization. One key dynamic, he says, of our ontological insecurity is the need to constantly renew our identity. And there is a terrific analysis about the shopping and consumer mentality that is really a national and now digital phenomenon. Identity is not a project that can be finished and set aside. It is a process that must be continually renewed by displays, interactions, signifiers, rituals, and so on. And that of course, part of that phenomenon is our shopping and consumer, our part in it, how we find our true selves in shopping on credit, right? We're with name brands, right? Not local, but name brands. But these are this line of thinking, this line of living is deleterious to us. In other words, it hurts us, right? It is a detriment to you. It is a detriment to your children and your family. We are, by the way, the home of the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl 50, and also here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the NASCAR station. NASCAR is here only at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. National politics, the Trump story, the Palin story, these are distractions. How can we find our way out? Well, we find our way out by discounting, not counting as important, discrediting, seeing as having little credit, if you will, the political argument that is the slab of meat thrown over the barking dog's head to distract him from his goal. And we need to see that local economy, starting with agricultural economy, is where there is a measure of salvation. You might say of economic, possibly political salvation. Salvation, of course, it refers. I'm borrowing the term from Christianity. Salvation is where there is redemption, right? There is redeeming, the buying back of something that is lost or broken. That's what redemption is. Salvation is that way as well. So the more local economy we have in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, the more secure this salvation is. Now, I'm not saying, of course, that this salvation saves anybody's soul from damnation. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm borrowing from Christianity, which does promise that a man who repents has God's favor and God's forgiveness. In this context, the local economy context, salvation is the regaining of capital and the prospect of production and the creation of wealth. That is a kind of salvation. It has to be something that is going to have to be slow. Think about it. We have people in the Tea Party. We have Republicans. We have conservatives. We have libertarians. A few prescient Christian people, economists, Gary North, for example. They want there to be a free market, but a free market is going to be long in coming. We can't suddenly cut off funding for thousands and thousands of people who are on welfare, or millions who are recipients of Social Security. Well, think about the people who have Social Security. Many of them, probably 2/3 of them, have no other source of means, right? No other dollar units coming in except that. They paid their whole lives into a system on political promises. They don't have contractual rights to benefits. It's not like insurance. They have a contractual claim. It is a political promise. There's no sin for any of them to collect what they've paid all their lives into through taxation. But a majority of people are dependent on government. In our state, 52% have government income, and about 19 of local governments. 25% of the population get Social Security. 2 of 3 are over 65, have no other means of income. And you can hear about this at Nooganomics.com. I just posted a very fine lecture on how to revive local economy by a noted Tennessee writer, Franklin Sanders, who publishes the Money Changer newsletter out of High Point, Tennessee. It's a gold and silver and investment-oriented economic tabloid newsletter. The money that comes in is of course, a sock in the jaw, as he says. From the first dollar on, your acceptance of government money or rebates or refunds makes you a dependent and gives you a stake in that system. And in other words, you once you have the money coming in from the good people, you have a stake, your security, you have your ontological security in the system, surviving and even prospering. You even have a stake in its expansion, because without its expansion, or so you're led to believe and to fear, you will get less. All right, you'll get a smaller allotment of dollars. Your dollars will not go as far, and you may be cut off. And these are threats to half of the American population. So we can't have automatically a local economy. We wouldn't want there to be suddenly and instantly a local economy and not a national and politically oriented corporate economy. That has to be replaced, not by force and not by cutting off, by the bankruptcy, let's say, of the federal government, where the lights would go out in the NSA data centers and the spies would have to push their roller chairs against their desks for the last time and walk out, never to return. That day is a dream for many, but it's not going to happen that way. And if it did, thousands and thousands of dependents would be in a bad situation. They don't know how to provide for themselves. And so local economy is a slow process. It's like the advance of the gospel, if you will. It takes centuries to see the evidence. But there is a slow evidence, and local economy, I think, thanks partly to the intergalactic world of the internet, will find its center and even its place using the internet, which was invented, of course, by a Democrat, Al Gore. This is David Tulis. We're brought to you by Trade Bank of Chattanooga at 877-2202. Find out how Trade Bank can benefit you. And Jürgen Mutz, the German with a southern twang, would just love to explain the local economy, trading economy benefits that come to you. Interestingly enough, Franklin Sanders says in his lecture at a local county, in an area courthouse back in 2012, we rebuild local economies starting at the agricultural center, at production of agricultural goods. That's where it starts. And in fact, that is what has happened here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. The local economy concept got its start in the local food area, the local food sector. And because this is the case, we need to have a deliberate desire to take part in, a willingness to take part in buying and selling locally, supporting local farmers, realizing that when you shop from someone, you are supporting that person. Whom do you want to support? Who do you want to support, my listener?
From all of us here at Hot News Talk Radio, thank you for patronizing our sponsors. It's important that you support people that support and advertise with Hot News Talk Radio, so we can continue to